Okay, I'm really nervous to make this video. I think it's the third time I have done the intro. I also have a coffee because I think that this video might take a little bit longer. We will see. Feminine women, I'm so happy that you're here supporting our small but strong community of feminine women who also like to talk about homemaking. If you are not subscribed to my channel, what are you doing? Hit the red subscribe button down below, join our sisterhood, and leave me a comment. I love to read all your comments, get back to them. I like to pride myself on being like a very involved YouTuber. I know I have a small community, so it's easier for me to get back to a lot of your comments, but nevertheless, I love reading them. I love engaging with you. I love talking to all of you. Over the past several months, I have been asked a multitude of questions through DMs. Sometimes I can't get to all of them on my Instagram pictures as well as on my YouTube channel, and I thought that I would gather some of them and put them into categories and answer the most frequently asked questions. If you have more questions on a particular topic, I could probably take every single one of these topics and turn them into a video in itself. Leave me a comment down below, and if you want me to elaborate on something, you can also leave me a comment down below and I will try my best to answer your question. We're gonna get a little bit personal on this video, so the only thing that I ask for you to do is to respect my background, I guess, respect the things that I'm saying, because we all come from different life experiences that helps us enhance our femininity journey as well as our traditional homemaking journey. We're gonna start off with a more lighthearted question, which is feminine inspirations. I get asked all the time where I have inspiration to start my channel. I have more information on the About Me section of my page as well as down below in the description box. So I have done pageants since I was about 15 years old, and I've also dabbled in some modeling, some not so great acting. I'm not very great at acting, hence why some of my videos were a little bit embarrassing when I started the channel, but that's okay. But I learned so much about femininity, particularly through pageants, and a lot of the things that I am telling you about are actually my life experience, understanding that femininity is not solely based on beauty, and that a feminine woman can really change the world. So yes, I derive a lot of my inspiration from pageantry, but if you aren't interested in that, and if you do not have a background that allows you to do any of those things, or you're just not the type of person that feels comfortable doing that, what I would encourage you to do is to seek feminine inspiration in your everyday life. I think that a lot of you might have been wondering where I derive feminine inspiration from in terms of celebrities, and I would say that for fashion, I've talked about this before, but classic feminine style is the type of style that I go towards, as well as beauty, kind of like classic beauty. So I like to look at old Hollywood actresses, I guess you could say, for that kind of style. Back to my point, I would encourage you to seek inspiration from women in your everyday life. There's femininity all over, and I want you to really think about the qualities of femininity that are the most important to you. For me, the most important qualities of femininity have to do with nurturing as well as collaboration. That's why you will always see me kind of like harping till the end of time on this channel that I believe that collaboration is so important as a feminine woman, because I think that femininity and women are really the backbone of society. They are really the glue that brings people together. So I think a truly feminine woman is interested in creating community as well as collaboration. I also look at people in my everyday life, women, older women, and how they treat people who are perhaps of a lesser status than them. That is something that I really think is important as a feminine woman, to show grace, to show empathy, to be able to relate to people on all levels, regardless of societal class as well as occupation, because I really do believe that femininity shows no limits. For you, perhaps you are interested in more developing your carefree and joyful nature. So try to look at women in your life that exhibit these qualities, especially women who are older than you, because you can really see how they have built their life through their femininity, how they have really blossomed using their femininity. You might hear some loud banging sounds. It's just people walking through the house, so I apologize about this. This is going to be a very authentic Q&A, very unscripted. The next question that I get asked is to share like budgeting tips or like housewife hacks of how to survive on one income. And I shy away from that topic a lot because I know that I will get people coming on my channel being like,
why is she talking about this? She lives in a big house.
What I'm going to tell you is that regardless of how much our income has fluctuated to like having nothing, like we had absolutely nothing when we got married. I'm not even joking to you. There were times where we had to choose between like paying a certain bill and like eating a certain thing. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it was like tough times. So the piece of advice that I learned through going through that is that you don't want to alter your lifestyle so much depending on how much income will vary. What I mean by that is, of course, you can change having a bigger house or having a nicer car. Those big ticket items you could change, but your everyday, day-to-day living, the way that you spend your money on groceries or how you shop for clothes, how you shop for household items, I recommend that you kind of always live way below your means in terms of that. And of course, people are going to disagree with me and they're going to say that you should live way below your means based on getting a house. But we know that a lot of people, if they can afford having a bigger house because they want to have a bigger family, are going to go towards getting that. This isn't a commentary channel on what is right for you in your specific circumstance to do with your money. This isn't a channel on that, and I'm not qualified to give you advice on that topic. But what I'm going to tell you is that if you keep your day-to-day expenses the same, even if you have an increase in income, you're not going to feel so much of a living difference when you experience a decrease in income, because life is very unpredictable. And you cannot guarantee that what is going to be coming in from your husband's job is always going to be the same. No matter what, even if you are a millionaire, I definitely think that you need to learn how to be frugal. And there are so many extra benefits to actually being frugal. For example, being eco-friendly. By being frugal, you tend to waste less, you tend to be more eco-friendly. You also tend to develop some skills that will really benefit your children. Okay, am I getting red? I'm probably getting red because I'm a little bit nervous about talking about all these questions. Okay, the next one is talking about my husband, how I met my husband, our love story, I guess you could say. So, as some of you know, I was president of a sorority, a really nice sorority, Delta Zeta. I wasn't partying, okay? We were a very academically inclined sorority. So before you jump to conclusions on that, I was the president of that sorority, so I had to interact a lot with the president of fraternities to do like joint events. There's a certain number of events that you have to do with fraternities every single semester to like build community in the Greek community on campus. So I was a little bit familiar with my husband because he served as president and vice president of his fraternity for a certain point of time. However, I kind of like pushed him away because I was really annoyed when I had to make those events with the fraternities because I actually thought they were a waste of time personally, sorry. But we kind of knew each other through like acquaintances that way. I went out to a friend's birthday, which was at a club. I always will tell women like you won't meet your future husband at a club, but like I had to go to a club because it was a girl's birthday in my sorority, and of course because the community was so tight-knit, and I decided to go to show my support because I was the president. So that is when I really got to talk to him, and so the rest was history, and then our relationship just progressed. My husband and I are total opposites. It is like a fire relationship, but it works, and I love him so much. I talked a little bit about our young marriage in a video that I'm going to link down below. I recommend that you watch it. I wasn't particularly religious at the time necessarily. I always had a good spirituality, a good faith in that sense, but I wasn't particularly religious, which caused for me to marry him young. There were just so many other factors and so many other benefits, and I just think that regardless of if you are religious, I think that getting married young, if you have met the right person, it can be an excellent decision for your life. Speaking of that, the next topic that we're going to talk about is babies. When we will have kids, if we want to have kids, and yes, I do want to have kids. I really, really do want to have kids. This is a complicated story and it could really be its own video. I'm going to try to summarize this as effectively as possible. When I first got married, I made a horrible decision and I took oral contraception, and it was horrible for my body and it was absolutely the worst. So I decided to get off of that and to cycle sync. That being said, at the time I decided to cycle sync, I have always suffered from ovarian cysts. I have always suffered from like estrogen dominance, I guess you could kind of say. So I've had a health journey all in that sense, dealing with my ovarian cysts. Then after I got off of hormonal birth control, I went through a really hard mental health time. I've talked a little bit about my anxiety and my attention span, etc., but I did not really open up to the fact that I did go through like a pretty bad depression. And that was at the time where we were not living close to my family. We were living in a totally different province, and it was the darkest time of my life. I don't even know what is propelling me to tell you about this right now, but like I even had a plan for how I was going to take my own life, and I'm trying not to get emotional about it, but that was like a really, really hard time. So at that time when I was trying to get all my hormones balanced and I was trying to go through the mental health stuff, and thankfully I found an excellent psychiatrist as well as an excellent therapist, and now I am totally off any medications that I was taking at that time. But side note, if you need to take medications or whatever you need to do to get through your life, this is not me telling you that it is a bad thing. I'm just telling you, for me, it was very important for me to get over all of that stuff naturally and to deal with the issues that I had naturally. So fast forward to about a year ago is when I felt like stable enough, and that is when I decided to start my YouTube channel. It's been about a year. I put out a video in like April or something, but I took it down because I was very, very embarrassed and like 10 people watched it. But I've been blogging for a little bit of time since like 2016, but I decided that I was stable enough to share my femininity journey with you, because that's also another aspect of why femininity has made such a big difference in my life and why I wanted to spread the message of the things that I have learned, because it really carried me through getting through that time as well. So back to the point about babies. So at this point, going through everything that I have gone through, because I know that when I come on here and I tell you all that I'm Catholic and I got married at 22, but now I'm 26 and I don't have kids yet, it seems a little bit fishy. But we are definitely hoping to at least have one child within the next 2 years, God willing, however that happens. And if that were not to happen for us, we would adopt, but we are also really interested in adopting anyway. That would probably be more when we're in our 30s for adoption wise, but that is something that God is like tugging at us to do as well. So subscribe and stay tuned, because there might be a baby in like a year or whatever. It could happen like next month. We don't know. Whatever God has planned for us. We are not actively TTC trying to conceive, but we are not TTA. We are not trying to avoid. We are going with whatever God is going to bring in our life at this moment. People ask me about my dogs. I have 2 Chow Chows, which are the darker ones, the black ones. There's a big one and a small one, and a Samoyed, which is the white one. I get also a little bit of questions about my background. So half of my family is French Canadian, and the other half of my family is Dutch/German. I also get asked about books, if I can put together like a book recommendation, and I'm going to tell you something that you're probably not going to like, but I am not a big reader. I like audiobooks, I like summaries of books. I am like a person that has a short attention span, so I like to listen to TED Talks. I love TED Talks, but there are a few books that are like, I would say, the cornerstone, the pillar, I don't know, the expression of femininity, as well as like aha moments for like traditional womanhood. And I've decided that I'm going to try to compile a list for you within the next few months and revive my blog, because I haven't blogged in like half a year, but I want to continue and try to put out more content on the blog for you. So I've decided that I'm going to make a list, so stay tuned for that. Follow me on Instagram, because I will be posting when that goes live. There is one book on the top of my head, because I think it's really important to tell you about this book, because I feel like they're kind of like the OG of like the modern mid-century renaissance of femininity, which is Fascinating Womanhood. They have a YouTube channel right now. I consider themselves kind of like one of the people who started the femininity movement. Now I find that with YouTube, femininity is really taking off with a lot of popular content creators, but a lot of the ideas that have already been discussed have been discussed as well in Fascinating Womanhood, as well as elements of biblical womanhood. All of the information that we're telling you really on the internet isn't things that are necessarily new. These are just things that we are telling you from our own perspective. This is why I like to call them feminine truths, because if you watched my What is Femininity video, you know that femininity can be objectively defined in certain senses. And if something can be objectively defined using words, using vocabulary, it is a truth, a feminine truth, if it is like agreed upon by the majority of people, it is also like substantially, I guess, supported as a truth, is what I'm trying to tell you. I also get asked about dressing femininely, advice for dressing femininely, and like I mentioned in the past, I really recommend that you watch one of my first videos ever, which is how to dress feminine. I'm going to link it down below. It is a little bit awkward because it's one of my first few videos. I'm still kind of awkward on the camera, and I hope that you can bear with me. You can speed up the video, you can slow down any of the videos if you find that they're not very bearable to watch, but I do think that the content of the videos that I put out is actually pretty substantial, pretty rich, and I try my best to put as much condensed information in each video as possible. I like to adopt a classic feminine style, but some people like to adopt a romantic feminine style. A lot of people in the femininity community adopt a romantic feminine style. I have suggested in my video a very easy combination for you if you are starting out, which is 80% classic feminine style as well as 20% romantic feminine style. Another thing that I want to encourage you to do is not be so hard on yourself, because like I've mentioned in some of my most recent videos, I do think that there is like a push to look a particular way when it comes to femininity, but understand that you do not have to totally give up like jeans, for example, to be a feminine woman. If you find yourself too much fixating on the like superficial outward appearance part of femininity, then you really aren't tapping into the purpose of what femininity is for, which is to harness those inner qualities of nurturing, of selfless love, of connection with other people, and to do so by tending to your body in order for you to feel confident enough to do that. I'm going to put in there the topic of makeup because I get a lot of questions on my makeup routine. I did kind of showcase you my basics of my makeup routine in one of my vlogs, which I will also link down below. I need some coffee for this one. And this could also be a video that perhaps I will do in the future, which is how to deal with judgment on your femininity as well as criticism on your femininity. Right off the bat, I wanted to tell you that I think that it's important to become a non-easily offended person. Try to develop your self-esteem to be able to filter out what people are telling you. Try to be able to capture those thoughts and to really tell yourself that when people say negative things towards you, there could be a little bit of truth. But most of the time, if somebody is putting like a backhanded insult in there, they are doing it out of a place of insecurity. And I've talked a little bit about this in my jealousy video that I'm also going to link down below because I highly recommend that you watch it. That a lot of times people act from a sense of self-preservation. They might not realize that when you are dressing femininely, they are trying to self-preserve themselves based on like their animal instincts. So they're trying to like diminish the competition that you potentially are creating for them to feel. This doesn't mean that they're a bad person. This just might mean that this person is less self-aware. So try to mentally forgive people. I know even some people who like come on this channel and insult me. If you're watching this, I forgive you because I don't think that it is useful to hang on to negative emotions and grudges towards other people. People are going to do things to hurt you. That is just human nature, but they don't always mean it. Once you come to terms with the fact that this is like a tendency of human nature and we are all sinners, and that's one of the major purposes for our faith and our religion, it's going to be easier for you to filter out negative judgment. In terms of being a homemaker or being a housewife or wanting to do that, I think that it is easiest to communicate with people who are closest to you to help them understand that life doesn't need to be lived all at one time. You don't need to make your major life decisions about what you're going to be doing at the age of 45 years old right now. Right now, being a full-time homemaker might be the best thing for you and your family, and I would just tell those people respectfully, which is what I do tell those people respectfully, that this is what makes my husband and I happy right now. Do I know what I'm going to do in the future? And maybe even if you do know that you want to do this for your whole life, you can explain to them that the way in which you are structuring your life is going to be best suited for you to have this role, and it is a joint decision. I think that what a lot of people don't realize is that it is a privilege to be able to have a nanny or daycare services, to be able to afford that, to have some sanity and to go work outside of the home. Just like it is a privilege to be able to stay home and to have somebody provide those needs for you, but you have all the women in the middle who are trying to do everything on their own because because they can't afford that type of help. And it's so easy for a lot of people who can afford that type of help at the top of the spectrum to judge all the people in the middle of the spectrum, just like there could be some housewives that judge all the people in the middle of the spectrum as well. The point is that a lot of people carry around this bias and they don't understand that they do. And I almost forgot, this one could be a total video in and of itself as well, but it is, why did I drop out of medical school? So I was always that type of student who was like a pre-med gunner, I guess that would be the expression, but I always thought that I wanted to be a doctor because I was told that if you had good grades, like I had always had good grades, and you were an intelligent woman and you were an ambitious woman, that you should become a doctor, dentist, whatever it is, like in that field. So I did the whole application. I did get accepted to an international medical school. Before you come on here and say like, oh, well,
you didn't really attend like a prestigious medical school and you didn't really go for that long.
Because I was only there for like a month. I just want to tell you that no, I didn't. So I can't tell you that I was there for a long time and the whole culture of the medical school caused for me to drop out. But what I can tell you is that leading up to the point where I was there, I had interacted with a lot of physicians. I had also really gotten to know the field and the people who were in it, and I sought out like mentors who were actually professors who taught at the school, as well as people who had experience in that. And I just found that the lifestyle, the way in which it is right now with a little bit less patient interaction, wasn't for me. Now that doesn't mean that it isn't for you, because I know that I have a lot of actual subscribers who are in that field in other countries, and I wanted to tell you that I do have one of my best friends who is a practicing medical doctor right now. So for certain women it's going to be their dream and it's going to be their passion, but I just feel like there are certain fields out there that really require for you to make a life commitment to them. They aren't just a job where you can clock in and clock out, and you really have to understand that when you choose certain careers such as becoming a physician, you have to actually dedicate your whole life to that, and a lot of times your obligations might come before other things in your life, and that isn't necessarily bad. That isn't a bad thing, because if it is your passion and it is your life calling, I do think that that is something that you should pursue. But if you are on the fence like I was and you are just pursuing a path because other people told you that that would be the thing that you should do, try to really reconsider if that is for you. I had to go through a lot of criticism going through that, and I had to really be like submitted to a lot of judgment by making such a radical life decision. I was so fortunate that I had parents who supported me. They didn't exactly understand what I was doing, and they were a little bit skeptical of it, but they had trusted their gut that they raised a competent enough individual to be able to make my own life decisions. So for me, I found that I wanted a more family-centered life. Again, this isn't saying that you can't focus on family if you are in the medical field. That's not what I'm saying at all. It was just for my particular circumstance and what I wanted in my life. I just felt like it wasn't a good fit, and I prayed a lot about it, and I just felt like God was talking to me without sounding like it's totally creepy. But he was saying, not for you. And it just kept on becoming louder and louder and louder, like, not for you, not for you. So I really tuned into that and I made a decision, and I do not regret it, because another thing that I noticed is that a lot of people do go into those more secure jobs because of pay, because of wanting to make like a stable income. But I also realized through getting to know my husband that there are so many other ways to make money in this world, pursuing things that are more of interest to you, and that really money is a tool. It isn't like what you should base your whole life on. So I have to go now because I have some things that I have to do. I could have talked to you about this forever and ever, and if you have any more specific questions to ask me, please leave them down below. I would like to do another Q&A if that is something that you're interested in. Hit the like button to let me know that. I love you all, feminine women. I will see you in our next video. Bye-bye.